I'm Terry Oracle, and this is the complete guide to the I Ching, or the I Ching. I've heard it pronounced 7 different ways. We're going with I Ching for this particular class. So, what is it and what do you do? Well, basically, it's a way to get some quick advice, and it has been around forever, and it's easy to do, and you can do it on the go, and there's many apps that you can use as well, and it's tried and true, and it's been again around for quite some time. So what is the basic process? Well, the first thing you're going to do is roll some coins, either 6 coins or 3 coins, or you could simply roll some dice. There's also many apps that you can use as well. So if you want to consult, then you do that. It's going to give you your hexagram result that you can look up. And of course, there's also several different card systems that you can use. So you could just randomly grab a card, or you can actually just get a I Ching book and turn to a random page. I don't like the random page method because if you go to the middle of the book, obviously you're isolated to only certain results that are in the middle of the book. So I like a little more random, maybe cards, maybe the coins, maybe the dice, or what have you. So a lot of different ways to get your result. Now, once you have your result, then you're going to go online and look up exactly what that result means. You're going to get a hexagram that looks like this. Then you're going to go online or go to your favorite book and sort of figure out what that hexagram means and all the good stuff within it. Now, the standard book that most people recommend is going to be the Wilhelm Baines book that looks like this. Be aware the book is small and the text is even smaller. So if you're getting up in years like myself, it may benefit you to just grab the ebook version. Obviously, there's limitations. The ebook version is going to be slower, etc., etc. But, you know, always pluses and minuses with everything. So the Wilhelm Baines book is definitely the one that you want to start with. Or, of course, you can just go online and look it up for free. So what do you get as a result? Well, the first thing you get is a result hexagram. That's going to be the first thing that you look up. The second thing you're going to get is a couple of bonus sentences. They're going to give you a little more syntax or a little more detail on your first result. And the last thing you're going to get is what is the situation changing into? Sort of like what is the result or what is the end state of your question. So you have step 1, which is the basic translation of what you rolled, a couple of bonus sentences, and then the end result of your question. So let's follow through and do this from start to finish. So let's say I rolled 6 dice, for example, and I got this pattern. Now we have 2 outliers right here. Thus we have the 2 dots in their respective location. And it looks like we have this pattern here. So now I'm going to go online and look up solid line 2 dashes. So that's going to be right here. And then we're going to cross-reference the bottom section, which is going to be right here. And we end up with a cross-reference, if you go all the way down, go all the way across, of 52, which is keeping still mountain. And then we're going to reference the text on that as well. And then it's time for our bonus sentences, which is that line and that line. So we'll look at the bottom line, and here's our bonus reading right here. It is the right moment for you to gain overview in order to see what is needed, your serene nature, etc., etc. And then line 3, because of a long history of misunderstandings about what a meditation, it's easy to fall into the delusion, etc., etc. So that's part 1 and 2. And part 3, we get sort of the result or what it's changing into. And again, we look this up, solid line 2 dashes, solid line 2 dashes. So we'll go from here. So the upper would be the solid line with 2. And then we have the lower line here. So cross-referencing these, we have 27. Or corners of the mouth. Okay, so now that you've seen the overview, that gives you your start, your bonuses, and then finally your result or what it's changing into. Let's look at what types of things we can do. So I have a problem with my girlfriend and I want to know what to do. What should I do? So let's go and do an actual reading and see what I should actually do to solve the problem. So for this particular example, I have rolled dice. Again, just for demonstrative purposes, there are many, many ways to get your reading, and this is my way today to get my reading. So what does this look like in real life? Well, I have even, odd, odd, even, odd, odd. So that's going to look like this. Now you'll notice there's dots beside some of these lines, and the reason is because they're outliers. In other words, they landed way off to the side in dice. And again, I'll go over the coin method, the dice method, all the different methods. Just watch me do a reading for now. So we have this reading here, and this is my result. So I can go online. There are many sites that will do this for me. Or you can go to your particular book, or again, if you have, let's say, the Tao or the Tao Oracle on the back, it'll have a lookup table as well. But basically, you want to look at the upper three, which is this, and then you want to look at the lower three, which obviously is the lower three here. So let's do it online just for simplicity purposes. And again, there's apps that do this as well, but for today we'll just go online. So we need to look up this as the upper, so we're going to look at right here, and then we look at the same thing as the lower. So we have this and this. So obviously we're going to go across here and we end up at 52. So let's click 52, and now we're at the keeping still, or 52. So now let's see what I should be doing. So this is the beginning, obviously. Keeping still, keeping his back so it no longer feels his body going in. So it seems like the prediction is to be the mountain, to do some meditation, to basically be keeping still, keeping quiet, keeping sort of myself into meditation and letting myself concentrate on the problem and allowing my intuition to pick up what needs to be done in this particular section. So now we have the lines. Now we're going to start from bottom and go up. That is line 1 is my bonus. And then we have line 3 as well is my bonus. So line 1 pretty much says keeping his toes mean halting. 1 is even start to move. The beginning is a time of few mistakes. Line 3, this refers to enforced quiet. The restless heart is to be subdued by forcible means, but fire when it is, etc., etc. So that is my basic reading and my 2 bonus lines. So now we're going to come to the rest of the reading, which is the result. So the result is going to look like this. Basically what I did was where I had a dot, in other words, where it was an outlier, I switched it. Instead of a solid line, now it's dash. Instead of a dash line, now it's solid. So this is my result or the end state. So let's go and look that up on the same page. So we have the top looks like this, and then the bottom looks like this. So we correlate those two down and we end up at here, and here we end up at 27. So we click 27, and that is basically the corners of the mouth. Perseverance brings good fortune. Pay heed to the providing of nourishment. So it's saying, make sure that I'm taking care of myself in this particular situation. Just make sure I'm taking care of myself. Make sure I'm getting the nourishment that I need. Corners of the mouth and a perseverance. In other words, don't be too lenient on the situation. Stay your ground a bit. Stay perseverance on the issue, and let that be sort of the final guiding factor. And that's what will be the end result, and the perseverance will be sort of the end state to this particular reading. So now that you've seen sort of how it works and how everything sort of flows together, let's go over the different methods that we can get to actually get your reading. So now let's start off with the 3-coin method. So the first method, you throw 3 coins. Now a head will be a long single line, and a tail will be the 2 dashes. So when you throw 3 coins, the first condition you have is one lone result. In other words, you're going to ignore the major results and only go with the minor one. So the minor one here is going to be tails, and we're obviously going to start at the bottom, and our minor result here would be tails. So we have at the bottom 2 dashes. So now we're going to roll these again. So now we have 2 tails and 1 head. The minor result, the one we're going to stick with, is going to be heads. So in this particular case, we have a strong line. So what if we have 3 of the same result? That is called, again, the outlier, or where we're going to put in a dot, and that's going to be our bonus reading. So now we have 3 tails. So we're going to obviously do the dashed result, but we're going to put a dot on the side. Had we had 3 heads, then we would have done a long line with a dot to the side. So now we have 4 out of 6. Now we're going to roll the final 2. So for the final 2, we came out with a head, and an outlier of tails. So now we have 3 dots, or 3 changing lines. So now looking it up online, we have this one on the bottom, and on the top we have this one. So we're going to go down, and where they meet is going to be 47. So we click 47, and then we're going to read the confining and oppression. I'm glad this wasn't my result. And then we're going to get the dotted lines. So that is going to be line 1, 2, 3. So now we read line 3. Line 4, again, we're going from the bottom up. We read line 4, and then finally 6, or the top line. And if you have a book, for example, this is a Tail Oracle book, you can see the bottom line would be 1, line 2, line 3, and this one has a more sort of friendly version of the advice. So if you want to do this, we have line 1, 2, 3, so we're going to go to line 3. The feeling of entering a second childhood can be full of wonder and innocence, but a second adolescence can drag a person into all kinds of theatrics and temper tantrums. Then taking some time for quiet contemplation always helps. And then the top line, the target is now to regain your inner balance, and the key is to drop any tendency to carry the past into the future. So we got some good help here. Now let's do step 3, which is going to be translate this into the final change. So we know the bottom line does not have a dot, so we're going to stick with the dashes. The next line does not have a dot, we stick with that. Now we're going to reverse this one because it has a dot. So instead of 2 dashes, we have a solid. And the same here, we're going to reverse it. And now we have 2 dashes. Now this doesn't have a dot, so it stays the same. And again, we reverse this one. So now the result, or the change, is going to be this result here. So let's use the book chart. We have 2 and 1, which is going to be right here. And then the bottom section, we have 2 and 1 as well. So we'll look up here, and we found it. So we're going to correlate down, and we come to 57. Which is the gentle. There are times when only a gentle approach will do. That is very true. So now we have our result or our end state here. So that is the 3-coin method, where we're going to toss the coins out. And now we have our result. So we have two outliers, this one and this one. So as we put them together, we're going to keep those separate. So now we have two outliers here and here. So let's put this result on paper. So here we have heads, obviously the solid line. We have heads again, the solid line, but with a dot since it's an outlier or it's skipped way out. So now we have tails, which is going to be the dashed line, and now we have heads, obviously the solid line. Now we have heads again. And finally we have tails, but with a dot beside it. So let's look this one up, which is actually kind of funny. We have two solids and a dash. We have two solids and a dash. We're back to 57, which is ground and the gentle success through what is small. So again, we would read, as the bonus, we would read lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our bonus lines would be lines 1 and 5. So again, we would go into lines and we would read 1 as our bonus and then 5 as our bonus as well. And finally, we have our result, which is going to be solid line. Because we have a dot here, we switch to a dashed line. And we have nothing here, so that is going to stay a dash. Nothing here, that's going to stay a solid. Same thing here, and we reverse this one, so that is going to be a solid. So now let's look this up for our final result. So now we have solid dash dash, which is going to be this one here. And then we have three solids, which is going to be here. So cross-referencing them down, we get 26. 26, the great accumulating or the great taming. The taming power of the great. Perseverance furthers. Not eating at home brings good fortune. It furthers one to bring the good water. So if you want a more friendly translation, again, we can go back to an alternate book, or again, the Wilhelm. The taming influence here is the ability to remain aware while being tested by circumstance. How able are you to hold firm in your ideals and maintain your integrity in the face of challenges that threaten to break down your resolve? So again, pretty interesting stuff. So hopefully this has sort of shown you how to get from place A to B and the different ways to determine your reading. And as a side note, if you are using standard dice, then we would have our outliers. And the outliers, in my opinion, let me move this down some. Well, let me just get the whole thing. The outliers, in my opinion, here are going to be these two. So these, so we basically just push them together, and your outliers is going to be the top and then the bottom. So that is your outliers, and then we would translate this down to the lines, and then we would look them up. That's my opinion of outliers. There are many different ways I've seen people do this. That's my personal way, and this sort of gets me the result that I want. Now, just a side note to some of these apps. A lot of these apps, when you click it, it will actually show you the outliers as different colors. So some of these have outliers, some of these don't. It's important to pick an app that allows you to do that. In other words, don't pick an app that just gives you one particular card and then just sort of dumps you off there. For example, just grabbing a card. You can just grab a card, obviously, but a lot of these will have red as your lines to as your emphasis lines or your outliers. So you definitely want to get an app that allows you to do that instead of just picks one card for you and gives you the explanation. If you wanted to use cards, of course you could just pick a random 2 cards and say this is the condition and this is the result, for example. So you're not really limited to just using coins or just using dice. You can also use a deck of cards and sort of go through here and get your reading based upon these. And in the next video, we're going to go through these one by one and take a look at what they mean and what the different types of readings we can get from these. So we're going to go through each card individually and sort of give not only the interpretation from several different sources, but sort of my sort of handling on how I read these and how I determine outcome from these. So we will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. And as always, please hit like and subscribe.